Good afternoon, Connect Group leaders. We're so excited to be with you today and looking forward to a little bit of time in the book of Luke. I have my Explore the Bible Leader Guide right here for Luke 1 through 9, and you're going to get this this week. And we just are excited to welcome Dr. Van Nest here to do another overview with us on Luke 1 through 9. He's not a stranger to you guys, but Dr. Van Nest is Dean of the School of Theology and Missions at Union University. He's professor of biblical studies and teaches New Testament and teaches a lot of other stuff there as well. But we're grateful that he's willing to join us through this medium and excited to jump in with him. Dr. Van Nest has been just a great friend to us as a church and to the Tennessee Baptist Convention. He loves the church, and he's always gracious to work with us on this kind of thing. So we're grateful for you, Dr. Van Nest.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be with you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Van Ness, we are concluding right now our study of Isaiah, where we have just had wonderful passages of the prophecies of Christ, his birth, his life, obviously prophecies that show crucifixion, resurrection, all there. And so to go from Isaiah straight into Luke, where we are going to not just see the prophecies, but 700 years later, we see the reality and those prophecies coming true. It's going to be a great study for us. And we're actually going to be in Luke for 6 months. That is the longest period we have been in one book of the Bible for a long, long time. And so we're going to have a chance to dig deep and pretty much look at all of Luke, which is great. We'd like to start today with just you overviewing some of the main themes, some of those the big picture themes that we should be looking for, that we should expect in this study.
Yes, well, that's great that y'all have been doing Isaiah. You're going from what I believe, it's the second longest book in the Old Testament to one of the two longest books in the New Testament. So, that's fitting together. And one of my Old Testament colleagues just the other day, in a totally different context, said the best preparation for studying the New Testament is to study Isaiah. So y'all are prepared, you're ready. You will see some of those prophecies directly here in Luke. Luke makes a big deal, especially here at the first part of it, citing Old Testament texts, most often Isaiah. So we'll just share a few things about the book as you get into it and thinking about a few things. Not surprisingly, the author of the book of Luke is a guy named Luke, and you probably already know that he also writes Acts, and so those two together are the biggest chunk of the New Testament in terms of words or pages, and that's a big deal. But it's useful also to think a little bit about who this Luke guy is. He shows up with Paul. Colossians 4, Paul mentions him, calls him a doctor, and so that's just a little bit. He probably is getting some of his source from Paul, but he mentions there in the first part of the book how he is aware when he writes that many other people have already written gospels. So he's obviously not the first one. He's carrying on a dialogue with some other things that have already been written. So we get that sense of he's done some research. He's spoken to eyewitnesses, he says. So we have him as you could say, as a proper historian. He's done interviews. It seems to me, there's no way to know this for sure, but it seems to me that one of the people he's talked to is Mary, just with some of the things that he tells us. Obviously, the Lord could have revealed these things to him as well, but it seems to me that's one of the things. And then one thing you might not just notice going along, the Gospel of Luke has been noticed for the beauty of its writing through the years. In fact, let's see, here's the quote I'm looking for. One scholar a number of years ago called it the most beautiful book there is. And this was from a scholar who didn't always believe the Bible. So he was one who could be critical, but nonetheless, that was his point. So it is a striking book. It's going to be an exciting study for you. I will just mention another thing here at the front. When you first get in, he has this dedication to a guy named Theophilus. And we don't know who Theophilus was. But a dedication like this was a standard thing in the, if you will, the really nice literature of the first century. So this is probably somebody who is underwritten the project, given Luke a place to stay and help him. But it also sets this gospel up as a piece of refined literature from the time period. I did mention it's the longest book in the New Testament. Acts is the next one. So one of the fun things about Luke is it being longer, there's more stuff here than in the other ones. There's a lot of things in Luke that aren't anywhere else. 19 parables that are only here. When I'm doing a class, I'm able to ask questions. I ask students, what parables come first to your mind? And typically, those are ones from Luke. So Good Samaritan, Prodigal Son, two at the top. These are only in Luke, so you get to go through those. We'll look at the birth discussion here in a minute, but most of the stories we know about the birth of Jesus are here as well. The census, Mary's pregnancy, Elizabeth's pregnancy, the announcement about John the Baptist coming, the shepherds, the visit to the temple, all that is only in Luke. So it makes it particularly special. Luke also is the one who records for us hymns of praise. And the first few chapters, there's a bunch of them. So again, I tell students that it almost seems like this is an opera. One guy's definition of an opera was that somebody gets stabbed and then they sing. So at every turn, somebody starts singing. You have Mary's song, the Magnificat, and she finds out. When Elizabeth greets Mary, when she comes, Elizabeth's song, Ave Maria, sometimes referred to as. Zacharias' song, the angels, when they appear to the shepherds, and then Simeon when at the temple. So that's striking. That's not in it's not in any other New Testament books at all. So that's pretty neat. As far as themes, though, I'd say if you look things up, you can see this described various ways. But I think for each one of the Gospels, although this is just terribly obvious, the main theme is Jesus. They exist to tell us who Jesus is. And not just to tell us, but they aim to convince us that Jesus is the promised Messiah and that we should put our faith in him. John's gospel explicitly says that, but it's obvious in the other ones as well. So one of the things, especially when we get to chapters 4 to 9, that I want to do is just walk through with two main questions that I suggest to you are key themes. And that is, who is Jesus? Let's make it 3 just for the fun of it. Who is Jesus? What is he doing? And how are people responding? And all that's aimed to bring us to faith. So another way you could refer to a key theme in the gospel is salvation. Jesus comes for salvation. He comes to bring this. And then add on to that, not just salvation, but salvation for all people. Luke, even more so than the other Gospels, not in contradiction to the other Gospels, but even more so than the other Gospels, stresses that salvation is for all people, not just Jews. You will see this in certain things referred to as a universal impulse of the Gospel or a universalist idea in the Gospel, but that's tricky because typically when we hear universalism, people are referring to the idea that everybody's going to be saved. That's not the point here. But that the gospel should go to the whole world. That's what you see here in Luke. Last thing I'll mention is that Luke also, even more so than the other gospels do this, but he highlights how Jesus is reaching out to the people on the margins. Again, this is in the other gospels, but Luke will mention this in a story where others don't, or Luke will include another story about this. So this includes the poor. It includes the social outcasts, even shepherds who come. They are considered unclean, and women. I have made the mistake in class saying that Luke had a particular interest in women. Now, what I meant by that was that the gospel pays attention to their place in the ministry of Jesus. So it should be, again, real clear. So that's just a few things about the Gospel of Luke, some key themes and some key points.